And now we are coming to the highlight of the evening, which is, of course, our history maker. Today, like we said at the beginning, we are honored to have Gloria Molina as our history maker for the evening. And our president and founder of the Mexican American Educational Foundation will be interviewing Honorable Gloria Molina, who is a former state assemblywoman, Los Angeles councilwoman, and a member of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, many times named as one of the most influential Latinas in politics. We are honored. I have seen her do her magic throughout my lifetime, and that was one role model that I could point to and say, wow, what a powerful woman. And we will hear about her coming up, her struggles, and her sage advice. I first want to introduce to you the founder of the Mexican American Educational Foundation. It is Dr. Jose Luis Ruiz, who is a powerful, well-spoken, very understated, but with a lot of punch in his words. He knows what the mission is. It was his vision to put this organization together, and he's gathered people, and more people are seeing that vision, and it is education. Knowledge is power, and therefore let me introduce to you Dr. Jose Luis Ruiz.
Thank you, Belle. Thank you so much. We're so thankful. We're honored today to have the opportunity to learn about one of the people that have truly done so much for our Mexican American community, a Mexican American history maker. Honorable Gloria Molina is somebody that has really changed our future, our present and our future in many ways. And I would like to share with you a quick video, just a little portion, just to get you excited about, about who we have today.
Okay.
My mom is the oldest of 10 children. She came from obviously a very large family. They were sort of poor growing up, so she was almost like a second mom in the family. She did everything. She would tell me that she would come home from school every day and make tortillas for her brothers and sisters. She didn't get to, have fun or go to after-school programs. She was always kind of doing the hard work, making sure everyone was taken care of, changing diapers, cooking, doing all of that. So she was a tough lady from the very beginning.
Gloria was a leader from day one. And it was the first time they saw a really excellent woman who could serve and was tough and wasn't going to get kicked around off of the newspaper or the guys serving with her say, oh, she's tough. It's okay for a guy to be tough, but if a woman's fighting for what she believes for, oh, she's tough. We had a saying in those days, can a woman break the glass ceiling? Not only did she break it, she busted it in every way that you could possibly bust a glass ceiling. Very few people you can say have been an assemblyman, has been a councilman, has been a supervisor. So when you talk about Gloria Molina as a leader, she means so much to women.
She was organizing.
There you see, a powerful woman that has represented us in a number of different ways, but also, as you see, Gloria Molina has a beginning, and that's what we want to learn today. We want to learn, and we want all of you to have the opportunity to learn and be empowered by her story. Gloria, and may I, with the most humbleness, may I call you Gloria?
Please call me Gloria.
Thank you so much. We had an opportunity to talk before, and it was an amazing conversation. We heard from your daughter already. We know that you were born in Montebello. We know that you come from a family of 10 siblings. And tell us, and we also know that, on our conversation, I've learned that you have a father who is a Mexican American and a mother who is Mexican. So that that was an interesting combination, and you know, you have a powerful beginning. Tell us how your family, how that unit had an impact in your life.
Well, I mean, I am the oldest of 10. Actually, both of my parents are from Casas Grandes, Chihuahua. They're from a pueblito there, but my father was born here. He was born in the United States and taken to Mexico when he was a 3-year-old, but basically he was totally Spanish speaking. He came over on a bracero program, and then he went to La Placita Church, which he knew he had been baptized at, and was able to get his paperwork. And then eventually brought my mother over. They married and brought my mother over. So, but we were raised here. I was born here, and I'm the oldest of 10. And my beginnings were very, very traditional, very Mexicana. My dad was a construction worker, and my mom stayed at home, as a traditional mom did. And I went to public schools, and my responsibility, as my mother always reminded me, was to set the example for my brothers and sisters, en la tradición mexicana. So that's what I did. And but I had a wonderful childhood, a great leadership. I have 2 abuelitas that were very commanding, and were really kind of role models for me, that I got to see all the time when we would go back and visit in Chihuahua. But it took me a while to find my voice. And it took me a while. Well, actually, I was a 20-year-old by the time I was starting to organize and be involved in the community. And I concluded as well, like our speakers earlier, that I had to be part of bringing about a change for our community.
What got you energized, Gloria? What experiences, maybe some prejudice that you saw happen around you? What are the experiences that energize you, that made you realize that you had to speak up, that you had to make a difference?
Well, you know, when I started taking action, it was always because I was angry about what was going on. First of all, certainly listening. I had an opportunity when I was at East LA College and part of the Chicano movement to listen to great speakers like Cesar Chavez and everyone, and talk about the inequities and the injustices, and certainly hearing them from my parents. And I realized what was going on. I was part of the school walkouts and seeing what was going on in our schools. I was part of the Chicano moratorium and saw what the police did to our community. And then of course I was also involved in a movement, a student movement that was headed up by men that really didn't allow the women to have any role whatsoever. So all of those things told me that I had to take action. So we got together as a group of Chicanas and formulated an organization to empower ourselves. It was called Comisión Femenil. And collectively, we started doing some work and advocacy on behalf of Chicanas in employment and education and other areas. And very frankly, that's what started it all for me, being around other Chicanas and Latinas who were good advocates, who knew about issues. We educated ourselves. We had, some successes, and we just got together and realized that we needed to bring about a change for the Chicana and her family. We were Chicana feminists when there weren't any around.
That, you're a trailblazer. That's what we saw in the video. You're truly a trailblazer. But I tell you something, and I can tell you that from experience from my own mother and grandmother. Mexican women are very powerful, very powerful, and you just express it in politics, which is wonderful to see, and it would be so nice to see more of that. But one thing that Roxana Moya mentioned, and that is the education. We need to educate ourselves. We need to see it as a requirement for our entire community to move forward. Now, you were in love with education as well, and my question is, how did that happen to you? How do you realize that you had to develop and educate yourself? You went to college, you became a teacher, but what energized you towards that?
Well, it's interesting. Again, coming from a very traditional family, my parents were very, very pleased that I graduated from high school. college was sort of an unknown to us at the time. I certainly knew about it and I wanted to go to college. Regrettably, I mean, like in most traditional Mexican families, you usually will work for a couple of years, help your family, and then get married, and basically then you start your family. But I knew that for myself, I wanted something else. I wanted more of a career. And so I went to school at night and worked during the day to help support the family. But basically knew that I had to get an education if I wanted to have a career. Wasn't sure in what direction I wanted a career. I wanted to be kind of a sociologist. I really wasn't sure. But it has been very clear that from the very beginning that we needed to educate ourselves and prepare ourselves for the future, that we couldn't just wait around to get married and have our husbands take care of us. I mean, way back almost 50 years ago, for me, that was a tradition, but not anymore. I'm glad to see women understanding and recognizing, and of course, a whole community that supports women getting an education. But we have to educate ourselves formally, but we also have to educate ourselves civically. We need to be educated about the issues in our community, who we are, what is going on, and take action. So it isn't just having the formal college education and a career path, but also being an active part of the community, educating yourself about what's going on, and taking a role. It might be an artistic role that you would get involved in advocacy. It might be that you're an engineer, whatever it is, but you do need to be involved in the community if we're going to empower ourselves to move forward as a community.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you're 100% correct, and that's why the Mexican American Cultural Foundation is so much into trying to remind our community who we really are. And in many of our previous events, we have had history speakers to tell us stories about who we really are. You know, for example, myself, I'm originally from Mexico City. And something that people may not know is that when I was a kid, I mean, you know, this is 50 years ago, in Mexico City, more than half of the judges were women. More, you know, when I was in dental school, 90% of the dental students were women, while in the United States, I know that it was the opposite. You know, half of physicians were female. So again, you know, we Mexicans have a long history of powerful women, and it's so good to see that, and so encouraging to see more and more powerful women expressing who we are. You were a teacher. You were a secretary as well, right? How did it happen that you were, you know, teacher, secretary? How do you become this powerful politician? I mean, I would love for all of our friends that are listening and who will be listening to this video in the future, and hopefully hundreds and thousands of people will. They need to know. I would love to know, so they know how they can follow your footsteps. How can we clone more Gloria Molinas?
Well, it started with activism. Again, while I was in school and working full time, I still had time to volunteer, but also I was part of the Chicano movement at that time, the student movement. And I was involved in a lot of issues. But one of the things that was very important to us at that time was making sure that as we were moving forward Chicanos and dealing with all of the problems of racism, we were still dealing with sexism, and we needed to bring that to the forefront. I remember asking a question even to Cesar Chavez when I was in school and we were in college, and he had come to speak to one of our programs. And we talked about the issues of empowering women. And he said to us that we had to deal with one issue at a time. And while I wanted to accept that, the reality was that we felt we needed to deal with both of those issues. So very frankly, I got very involved in organizing and working with Chicanas. I came across a group of very powerful women, Francisca Flores, Lilia Aceves, Yolanda Nava. I came across all of them, and they were putting together the Chicana Service Action Center, which was an employment training center for Chicanas. And we knew that when women were going out to work, and many of them had to go out to work, they now were single moms, they needed childcare. And so we started advocating for those kinds of issues. So little by little, I got very involved in the community and different advocacy issues. And then eventually I joined a group of Chicanos that were involved called Californios. And we were involved in the reapportionment issue in 1970. After the census, and there was going to be the whole reapportionment as to how they were going to lay out all of the legislative seats and the current congressional seats. And of course, that was going on, and I was very supportive and an advocate with them because we wanted to get more Latinos in the legislature, wanted to get more Latinos in city council, and certainly in the Congress. But one of the things that was happening is that we heard that there would be 3 congressional districts that would be added, 2 of them in Southern California. So I thought, what a great opportunity to now get a Chicana, a Mexican-American woman in the US Congress. We did not have one at all at that time. So of course I went to the leadership, to the men, and talked about this and said it would be great if we could find a Latina, a Chicana who could run for one of these seats. And I talked to them, and of course they laughed me out of the room and basically said, we already decided, Gloria, who we are selecting for these 2 positions. And of course they did. And of course I didn't have at that time the strength of the voice to stand up as firmly as I needed with them. So we backed off a bit, but that didn't mean we gave up the idea. We started organizing and strategizing of what we were going to do. So we needed to find a candidate. We didn't have one. We needed to put together and how to work a campaign, do all of those things. And so when one of these seats came up kind of in my own backyard, I went out to go look for a candidate. I remember going to Antonia Hernandez. I talked to various women who were Chicana lawyers and talked to them about running for this legislative seat. And of course, they laughed at me and they said, Gloria, the guys are never going to let it happen. And they were on a different career path anyway. So eventually we put it together, and it was decided that I should run for this seat. Initially, I'm not going to say we didn't think we could win. We knew we couldn't win. The stakes were against us. They had all the money. They had all the endorsements. They had everything. But we knew we had to stand up to them. We knew that we had to say to them, we're going to run a strong campaign. They can't dismiss us. They've always included us in the campaigns, but we're always the worker bees, mimeographing, making coffee, making phone calls for them. And very frankly, now we wanted a seat at the table and they were denying us. So I decided I didn't decide, a group of us decided, there was about 20 of us, that I would run for this assembly seat. I raised the money. I was really fortunate that I'd been very, very involved in the community and a lot of organizations, so that I was able to build support. Couldn't get money from the traditional sources and so on, but I was able to raise competitive money. And it was very, very hard. It was disappointing as well because, everybody was accusing me of, weakening the movement and all of those kinds of things. But I said, we need to be a part of it. So we campaigned, we worked very hard. I remember one of the last couple of days before the election, the LA Times interviewed me. And of course, I talked about the issues, addressed all of these kinds of things. But basically, they wrote an article and saying she's competitive, she's articulate, she knows the issues, but she's never going to win. And they said even the Latino men will not support her, Latino women will not support her. So it was very discouraging, but very frankly, we kept going. We walked the district 1.5 times. At that time, we could make phone calls. I had so many volunteers coming in and helping from all over the community. And so while we didn't have as much money or the endorsements, we really had a very powerful force of people. And so I was very fortunate that in June of 1972, I was elected as the first Chicana ever to the California State Legislature. It was tough, it was hard, and I think we shocked the men in the community. I think were very disappointed and discouraged. We really needed to stand up for ourselves at that time. And so ever since then, of course, it's always been a battle for me. The same thing happened when I ran for the city council. The men in the community put up another candidate against me. Luckily, I was able to win very early in that campaign, and so I was fortunate. And then later on, the same thing when I ran for the County Board of Supervisors. But I've hopefully, one of the things I've always been reminded of, and being the first is very, very important and significant in many ways, because everybody's looking at you. Everybody wants to know how you're going to do. And I was reminded of what my mother would always say to me when I was the oldest of 10, tienes que ser el ejemplo. So I had to set the standard or the example. I was shaking in my boots many a time when I got up to speak. I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I knew that I had to be there. I had a voice. I had a vote. I had to work hard. I had to research. I had to catch up and work a little bit harder than everyone else. But I had to demonstrate to them that I could be part of these roles and that I could make a positive contribution. And then I also found that I had to represent all of those issues, the issues of racism, of sexism, of lack of opportunity in education, lack of opportunity in employment, creating childcare, looking at every single opportunity to get Chicanos and Chicanas to be part of our community. And so that's been my battle ever since. I've always been in the minority in all of those issues, but I've always held strong to those issues. And when I look at some of the powerful people, particularly the women who have followed me in the legislature and in the US Congress now, it is just amazing the work that we're doing. And now these young people who are so articulate, so bold, and so courageous and prepared to move forward, I'm really moved by that. So I'm glad that I had my day. I worked hard, but now I think we really hopefully patted down the grass for many, many more women. You still have to work twice as hard to be equal. You still have to fight for it. It's not going to happen to you. You have to prepare yourself for it every single day. But you know what? It can happen. It can work, and it's not automatic. But at the same time, and once you get there, you cannot forget. You have to be part of an empowerment agenda. You have to bring the rest of the community with you. You just don't serve all by yourself. You didn't get there by yourself. So it's really our responsibility to take on leadership role and remind ourselves of all the issues that we need to work on every single day on behalf of our community, because we're only a few voices in those very powerful positions.
Exactly. There, unfortunately, we're still only very few
That's
voices, right. And that was amazing. We learned so much just by listening to you this past couple of minutes. Advocacy is so powerful, and creating a grassroots effort with people that are they're like-minded. And now I have a question for you, which is maybe a tough question to ask,
Okay.
but I mean, you and a group of powerful women, Chicana women,
Mhm.
Mexican American women, put together this powerful movement, and you achieved so much together. Now, we are at a point in history where Mexican Americans are a very large number of the population. We should have. Cubans have already people in very powerful places in the couple of Cubans run for president, last time, or a couple, why is it that we don't have Mexican Americans that are running for president? How are we gonna do that? What do we have a powerful leaders that are helping us get there? What is what will it take?
Well, certainly we have the talent in the community. I mean, there are very powerful, wonderful women in the Congress, in legislatures, and governors now. So we're moving in that direction. But there's still the discrimination and the racism. We're seeing it now across the country. It isn't just for African Americans, but all people of color. So we need to start changing all of that and starting to create more of those opportunities. But very frankly, our community as well. I mean, we just know, we're still not, every one of us that should be registered is still not registered. So hopefully we're going to register. We're going to have to learn how to play by the rules. I mean, the politics is politics, and you can throw rocks all you want, But until you get involved in the system and start changing it from within, we have the census going on right now. We need to be counted. From that, we're going to make determinations about reapportionment again. So we need to be a part of all of this kind of advocacy. But very frankly, the other part of it as well, and Belle knows this as well, and you had again, Luis Nogales, right? That was on the program.
Yes, Alex Nogales, yeah.
Alex Nogales, and brother Alex. But Alex has been working on these media issues forever. We're still invisible to the mainstream media. I look at CNN, MSNBC, CBS News, ABC News all the time. We're still not part of that dialogue of the civic, political discussion that is going on every day. Every time they have the talking heads of people doing news analysis, I notice there is hardly a Latino or a Chicana. Occasionally you see Julian Castro, you see a couple of people there. We still need to fight and get our images on there. And that is, I join with Alex all of the time because we're still not part of that mainstream. Very frankly, everybody watching TV, and we're still not part of movies and programming and all the things that need to happen. So we need to continue our advocacy. It's not automatic. Our numbers are growing, but at the same time, we've got to put that unity together. It is to all come together, and we need to continue to advocate for our community. We can't stand back and wait for it to happen. We need to continue. I don't know if protesting and marching still needs to continue, but that's how I got involved, whether it was a Chicano moratorium or walking out of schools or getting the attention of these people. We need to let them know this is our country. We're Americans. We need to be part of the mainstream. In LA County alone, we're 50% of the population here. We should have more leadership, not only as our elected officials, but in corporate America and certainly in Hollywood. And we're almost non-existent in those areas. So tenemos que seguir la lucha.
Yeah, when can we support you to become the next governor?
Well, I'm retired now,
Well,
but there's some wonderful people out that are members of a lot of wonderful women that are just waiting. They know the issues. They're bright. They're smart. They're very capable. They could get there. But we need to always remind ourselves that we still need to struggle. We still need to fight. There are too many of us who still do not have a voice, do not have an opportunity to vote. We are a young population. We have many children in our community. We're growing and getting stronger all the time. But the reality is that for some of us have to step aside and allow new leadership to come in. Others need to lead vigorously and strongly, and don't become part of the same thing. If you elect somebody who's a mayor or a council person, if they just become part of the status quo and don't become an advocate for our community, ¿para qué? We don't need them. They should move out of the way, because we still have to continue to fight the injustices and the discrimination and the sexism that's still going on in our own community and across this country.
100% in agreement. Now, what organizations would you say that you are a proud Chicana. We know that. We know that Chicano movement had so much to do with who you are, and it's so much for our community. Unfortunately, we don't have that anymore. What organization would you say today is helping the Mexican American community? Would be an organization that we should join in regards to this activism and stuff? What were, unfortunately, my experience has been a little disappointing. Or should we restart the Chicano movement?
Well, again, it happens in every arena and every area. So again, you should be involved in something within the community. And it isn't just in a political setting. It can happen in every single arena. I was part of the Chicano movement, but one of the most encouraging things for me in the last 10 years have been the Dreamers. The Dreamers have been amazing advocates for a whole group of young immigrants that should be treated fairly in this country. Their courage, their boldness, and how they move forward. We should support people like the Dreamers. There's been an organization that I've been a part of that, you know, is celebrating over 50 years, and that's the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund. They are the lawyers of our community. They're fighting in the US Supreme Court. They advocate in Congress. So all inequities when it comes to Chicanos, Latinos, they're involved in part of all of that. But then there's smaller organizations like Casa 0101, I mean, with Josefina Lopez, who's teaching artistic actors and how to have a presence on stage. I mean, these are all important roles. And of course, my beloved Plaza, La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, which is again, teaching about your history, our contributions. All of these are organizations and networks that connect you to an agenda of empowerment, of how to be a part of the community, how to take an active role, how to find your voice, and to then go into the area of interest that you have, whether it's the arts, the sciences, politics, government, or media, whatever it may be, and then become a leader in that arena. And then bring others with you. We need to have people in all of those areas, not just in politics, but in every single one of them. We need to tackle Hollywood. We need to tackle the medical community. We need to tackle all of these arenas in every single way. So we need Chicana leaders in every single one of them to help others get into those professions, into those careers, to be advocates for us there. So there's a role for every single one of us, but I am inspired tremendously by the Dreamers and how strong and bold they were. Their strategy, their agenda was beyond belief. You have to admire that kind of effort. They put themselves in so much jeopardy to move forward.
Yes. Yes.
So they're important. So there's a lot of networks and organizations to get involved in. None of them are the wrong ones, but I think if you find a place, that's what I found. I found my place. It gave me a voice. It gave me a place to practice kind of being out there, how to strategize, how to do these things. And eventually, I mean, I wasn't originally going to be the candidate. I was going to be the fundraiser, the campaign manager. But when we couldn't come up with a candidate, I became the candidate. Not the best one, because I'm not, anyway, sometimes I speak my mind too boldly.
I think we may disagree. I think we may say that we were very lucky that you were the candidate. And all of us Mexican Americans and everybody in Los Angeles can say that, because your contributions are many. Yes,
Right.
La Plaza is one of those big contributions that was that you were the main advocate to open, to start a museum that will celebrate the Mexican American history in Los Angeles. And certainly we the Mexican American Cultural Foundation, we've been very fortunate to attach ourselves to La Plaza, because we know how many good things they're doing. Why do you feel the need? And I think maybe you kind of tell us so much about it, but why do you feel that it's so important to have that museum that reminds us the history of the Mexican American Los Angeles, which we were here before the Mexicans were here before the Americans. We know that. But so everybody forgets that, right? For some reason.
They forget that because it's not part of our curriculum.
So much.
We don't learn that in school. And if you remember the two speakers before us, everyone has talked about the fact that we don't know our own history. We don't know our own contributions. So Plaza is here to showcase those contributions and that history. We're here. We bring in children every single day, of course, when we can, and we educate them about who they are. And they come from very proud, strong people who have made tremendous contributions, not only to LA County, but to this great state and this great country. So we need them to take pride. We showcase art, we showcase music, we showcase all of our contributions all together. And it was important for me because we need to change that. We need to start telling our own stories, our own history, not through the voices of others, but through ourselves. We need to empower ourselves in that regard. I want every Mexican American family, every Chicano family to visit Plaza, to find a place there for themselves, and to listen to all this history and story which we were never taught in our schools, and an opportunity to meet wonderful people like the people that you brought on today and the programming that you're doing. It gives a real insight to so many of us, whether we're young and old, to introduce new people, to see how brilliant and capable they are and the talent that we have in our community. So we needed to do that. And I'm so proud that Plaza has been able to present that. They have some of the most talented staff people there, putting together programming all of the time that is beyond belief. And so I'm so glad it's successful, because the reality is we need to build the strength of Plaza so that we can be telling our own stories, and more importantly, showcase our contributions, because the media is still not paying attention to who we are, where we've come from, what we're doing, and that we are the future of this country.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very, very well said. My final question, Gloria, would be, you know, with so much that you've done for our community, what would be, and I know you've told us some already, this, you know, but what would be the most important advice that you would give people like Roxana, like Karina, who they are advocates, they are working, so they can become, you know, the next Gloria Molina, the next you know, person that we can look up to and support and take as high as we can.
Well, those two women seem very, very talented. I think they're on their way. And I know there are many more like them. But the advice I give is to never give up. Always be who you are, I think, and be genuine and articulate, and never forget where you come from, your raíces, and your family and your culture. Bring it with you as you move forward and advance in the community, and always give a helping hand to the next person, a leg up, and talk about how we leave a big imprint. Each of us can. And I know that the two women that you were talking about, one I think is an educator and the other one is an actress, they are going to be able to do so very much. They're articulate, they're smart, they're capable, they know their history, and they're willing to speak out. That is wonderful. But we can never give up, no matter what. And we lose a couple of battles here and there. I've lost a couple, but I've never given up. There's so much more that we can do. We're very significant. We're very important. And as we said, we all have a voice. Let's bring all those voices together, and we will have unbelievable strength, and we will change the outcome for our children. We'll make them stronger and better. I know that I changed a couple of things for my daughter and for my community, but you know, I'm retired now and I'm doing all kinds of things. I'm now the supporter, but there's so many wonderful young people who are moving in every single day that are so articulate, so capable, and so smart. Hopefully we'll see them as governor, US senator, and president one day, but I also want them to be head of a major Hollywood studio, a major corporation. I want them to win an Academy Award. I want them to have opportunities like that, because we need to be in every single arena, and we need to be leaders in those arenas.
Absolutely. Wow. Very beautifully said.